Hi, I'm Chris Kepler, and welcome to Does This Happen to You? I'm an actor, voice actor, audiobook narrator, and writer. I love telling and sharing stories about the strange experiences my friends and I have while doing mundane things like grocery shopping. That's why this podcast features funny stories from fantastic writers about our daily anomalies, a micro audiobook about life and befuddlement just for you. Our story this week is from Allie G., who you'll find on medium.com. And here is No More Mrs. Nice Groh. Watch out, Mrs. Groh is coming for you. In the mundane world of assessment days, it is easy to fall into an unobservant routine. This early afternoon, I sat at my desk, grading papers furiously, racing to get through every essay submission in that period before the bell rang. Testing days are quiet. Keyboard's keys lightly tap-tapping by middle schoolers' shaky index fingers. Anything learned in typing class during the 6th grade obviously lost. The sounds of shuffling papers in disorganized backpacks, a suppressed cough, and perhaps even the rogue crackling announcement over the speaker near the ceiling. A middle school symphony to accompany the studious quiet. But then, "Ah, shit, man!" It came from the hallway. As a general rule, I do not let my students work in the hallway. Today, however, I allowed a select few I knew would not cheat and stay silent out there to work. Now it seemed they were betraying my trust. The students left in my classroom turned toward me abruptly, their concentration thwarted by the disturbance and impending drama. And thus began the task of being the teacher who is unfortunate enough to hear when things start to go down. I pushed my chair back to relieve myself from my desk and marched to the doorway, ready to scold and assign detention to whichever one of my students decided to forget how to be civilized in society. But there they all still were, assessments open in their Chromebooks, looking in the direction of the stairwell. Dear Lord, not the stairwell. In previous years, I have caught students making out in said stairwell between classes, pushing each other in hopes of TikTok fame, and just in general, acting like complete heathens. Yes, it is in my job description to make sure students are safe in the building, but man, it sure is a lot of paperwork when you're the one to witness the tomfoolery. Pushing my shoulders back to assume my best adult in charge pose, I trudged through the hallway, leaving my class unattended to figure out what on earth was going on. Lo and behold, frickin' 7th graders. The one with the 2009 Justin Bieber haircut was in the midst of his preparation to toss a shoe? A crock? Up the stairwell when I shouted in my authoritative tone, "Hey!" The group of 3 boys just stared at me for a moment. 12-year-old skaters of the 2020s have a tendency to look at any teacher, especially a little blonde one who is often mistaken for a student, as if they are the stupidest thing they have ever seen. They were definitely going to try to make a run for it. I had to pick out the weakest one. I settled for wannabe Justin Bieber holding the lone crock. There is something to be said for the transformation a teacher like me must go through to go from bubbly and nice to stern and terrifying. You could think of it like Bruce Banner morphing into the Incredible Hulk, or like when Ursula, the sea witch from Disney's Little Mermaid, grows into a giant at the end of the movie, laughing maniacally before moving in to finish off Ariel and King Triton. For me, though, obviously my body stays the same. I can't grow another foot or sprout gigantic muscles, but I can do something else akin to a superpower in a middle school setting. I can flip a switch when things go wrong. I can approach smiling, look you dead in the eyes, and morph my face into the deepest, most frightening, dead-eyed stare. It was this stare that got Croc Boy to abandon his friends and follow me. After my intense questioning on the way back to the classroom, "Who are you? Where are you supposed to be? What are you doing? Have you lost your mind?" I called the boy's teacher as my students stared on in awe. I might as well have dragged this child by his ear the way he looked at me, quivering lip, puppy dog eyes. Give me a break. After I confirmed with his teacher who he was and where he was supposed to be, I let him go. The poor thing scurried away, probably more afraid of the 8th graders staring at him than he was the punishment that awaited him. "Mrs. Groh, you sure got him!" one of my students exclaimed after a tense moment of silence. "Man, if he has you next year, he's probably going to wet himself." I chuckled and shook my head and sat back down at my desk to finish my grading. I took a deep breath to calm my racing heart, breathed out, and put a smile back on my face to show them that the friendly Mrs. Groh would be back for the rest of the period. My students soon got back to their assessment, and I resumed my grading. The scariest teachers? My shyest student in the class, placed right by my desk for reassurance during lessons, murmured just loud enough for me to hear. "Can act all nice all of the time? Really have you believe that they don't have a mean bone in their body? But then they flip the switch and can become completely terrifying." Indeed, she was right. I acknowledged her comment, a compliment even in her mind, and went back to my grading, a smirk forming on my face. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the story, let me know and share it with your friends. Follow me at ChrisKKAria on Twitter or Chris K. Kepler on Facebook. Or check out my website, www.chriskepler.com.